So my question is the 9mm dead?
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Crow Ranch. We're the KroBros, Adam, Brent, our fearless cameraman Pat, and today we're here to talk about the Palmetto State Armory 5.7 Rock. Brent, what a day we've had.
Yeah, it's been a really fun, interesting day at the range, absolutely. Shooting the 5.7 has been a blast, no pun intended, and putting it up against the 9mm just to kind of see for comparison, because most everybody nowadays is going to have one of these tucked in their bra. So is the 9mm dead? Is it? I don't know. We put it to the test today a little bit to kind of see what our thoughts were on it. There's definitely some strong selling points for the round, and there's definitely some cons as well, and we're going to go over all those for you.
You know, you guys, today we were trying to figure out if this video was really going to be a review about the 5.7 by PSA, or if it was going to be more about the notion that is the 5.7 more effective in some way, softer shooting, etc., than the 9mm. So the video is kind of doing both today. I want to talk a little bit about the notion of 9mm versus the 5.7. I have one or two of these, and I absolutely love 9mm. Taking out the 5.7 for the very first time in a handgun for me today, love at first sight, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not kidding. I'm not trying to exaggerate. I took this out on the range. The circumference of feeling smaller, like a single stack 1911 in your hand, how soft shooting it is. People talk about that in other videos. I'm like, okay, it's soft shooting. No, seriously, it doesn't. When you're firing with the 9mm, it's just got a little jump on you. This does not. It really is something to behold. You really were pressing the idea of, Adam, you should try a 5.7, and I was resistant, but man, you've made a believer out of me.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting cartridge. NATO obviously introduced or requested an 89. FN got together with them, and they came over with the 5.7. They wanted something that was going to outperform a 9mm in every regard. They wanted a personal defense weapon type cartridge, an intermediate cartridge, something that's going to fill that role between 9mm and 5.56. And this is what they came up with. It's kind of the bastard child, but it does everything that they requested it to do. This is able to defeat body armor. I think up to level 2. Soft armor, it'll defeat or go through, which is pretty incredible.
Brent, I think one of the biggest parts about when I first picked up the weapon today, when I first picked it up, the notion that as you pull the slide, the barrel does not move. Tell us a little bit about the mechanics of the weapon.
Yeah, so absolutely, you can see as we're cycling the slide here that the barrel does not tilt, which makes this an excellent host for suppressors. Most 22 cans are even rated for 5.7 as well. And obviously check with your manufacturer on that before you shoot it, but you do not need a recoil booster or an LID device on this particular weapon platform with a suppressor, which is actually really neat, because on a standard 9mm, you're going to have barrel tilt. You guys are going to tilt up, and there's a feed ramp that has a big, funnel that kind of jams those rounds up in there, and it's pretty violent loading on the, 9mm, as opposed to on the Rock, you've got kind of a cone barrel in there, so when the round it's just more of a direct feed. There's no need for a tilt. So we were getting excellent reliability out of this, shooting both of them suppressed. The 9mm did great as well, but to Adam's point, I believe FN posted about a 30% recoil, a reduction in recoil, compared to a 9mm.
It feels like more, ladies and gentlemen. It just does. Brent, do you agree?
Absolutely. My best way to describe this weapon is fast. You can shoot this weapon fast, and it stays on target. You just get that sight alignment, and it just that front sight press, and it just tracks so well. I mean, the 9mm is pretty soft recoiling as it is, and absolutely manageable. But when you jump from shooting at this, and then you pick this up, and you try to shoot 4, 5, or 10 rounds in succession, it's amazing what the recoil does, and just being able to keep it on steel and just maintain that target. And we were even using the red dot on this, which is obviously pretty fast as well. But this just tracks so much faster, even without a red dot. I can't wait for us to get an RMR of some type on this and see how it shoots as far as speed and accuracy. But I mean, just shooting irons on this thing today was incredible.
I think it's something to speak to the ballistics as well. Obviously, when you have a 9mm feet per second, about 11 and a half, and the notion of the FN, the 5.7, excuse me, firing at twice that.
Yeah, about 2,000 feet per second-ish.
When you talk about going fast down range, it's also just a matter of from the time you pull the trigger till the round impacts with the target. I think that gives it an element of feeling like I'm firing faster as well.
So I was up last night just kind of thinking before we did this review on what the hell is this thing for?
Sure.
Okay, it's 5.7. It's 23 rounds plus one in the pipe. You got a little bit higher capacity than a 9mm. A little. A screaming hot round, obviously. This, I think when the FBI did their penetration test, they want to see anywhere from 12 to 18 inches, no more than 18 inches of penetration in ballistics gel. And they found that this is performing more like a rifle round. And you're getting a lot of tumbling and fragmentation in the ballistics gel as opposed to the 9mm, which does great with penetration and expansion, but the 9mm relies a lot on that expansion to get that, that terminal ballistic incapacitating shot, as opposed to where this is hitting so hard and so fast, you're getting more of a fragmentation. Temporary cavity is vicious. I mean, this thing is just, it wreaks all kinds of mayhem in gelatin blocks.
What do you think? What's it for?
I think this thing's going to shine in a few different roles. One is going to be possibly like a PTS, or excuse me, a close protection, something like that, VIP security, something like that, where you have potential threats of body armor or otherwise. Possibly a great trail gun, hiking, camping, fishing, just something to have on your hip. You don't want to carry a bunch of mags and a bunch of other stuff. You just want a single pistol, 23, 24 rounds, and not have extra mags or otherwise, and still feel like you're relatively protected. It's going to do great against, mountain lion, deer, elk, moose, black bear, that kind of thing. And you're going to get some penetration and some violent expansion and fragmentation with that round. Maybe even trappers, so you're not destroying the pelt, that kind of thing. This is definitely going to be a better option than a 9mm in that type of environment.
Oh, here we go.
Hey guys, can we just go shoot this thing real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go do it.
Assassin. You want him? Okay.
YouTube reload.
I'm in love. This is The softest shooting pistol. Is this a 22? 5.7? Are you kidding me? Ladies and gentlemen, what an amazing firearm. Whoa!
All right, so for this next test, we've had a lot of requests of people asking for us to do penetration tests. So what we're going to do is a comparison, not super scientific, but still a pretty cool setup, and this should help kind of show what kind of ballistics we're getting out of both of these weapons. For comparison, we're going to do a Shadow Systems 9mm, basically a Glock 17 in Shadow Systems, and this is going to be the 5.7 Rock. Very similar barrel lengths. We're going to be shooting them both suppressed. Ammunition we're using is going to be both Federal American Eagle. 9mm will be 9mm full metal jacket, 124 grain. I believe that they're traveling right around 1,150 feet per second at 25 yards on the box. This is going to be the Federal FMJ 40 grain 5.7 by 28. This should be, I believe, right around 2,000 feet per second, maybe a little lower out of the pistol. What we're going to do is put one round of 5.7, one round of 9mm. We're going to see which one does better. Let's see how they perform.
Ready?
All right, 124 grain full metal jacket, 9mm. First shot. Let's see what it did. All right, looks like we got a little deflection. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It started to go to the right here. Got 11 rounds. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the 5.7 next and see if we get less deflection, and then we can rerun a 9mm, see if we get a couple shots on this, see how it turns out. Okay. All right, 5.7, 40 grain, full metal jacket, 5.7 by 28. Let's see what we got. All right, we get a test here? Can we get a test? All right, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 and a stop here. So we got some sprawling. Got a nice solid penetration. So according to this, I'm kind of surprised. It looks like, from what I've seen already, 9mm is penetrating a little further. It's already gone through a few other boards before it curved. So let's try one more shot with each, see where we end up. All right, another shot with 5.7 by 28, 40 grain, full metal jacket. Let's see what we got. 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. But definitely got a nice hard impact. You can see that it looks like the round is turning sideways. You can see keyholes. Blew out the back of the board. And this one, nothing. See the 9mm. All right, let's try that 9mm one more time. All right, let's try the 9mm again to the Shadow Systems. 124 grain, full metal jacket. Got it a little lower. Let's see where that one. Let's see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, look, come over here. Got a bullet right here. So 11, in between 11 and 12, we got that bullet recovered. 9mm. So it looks like we're getting a little better penetration out of the 9mm on this test. Really surprising. All right, 9mm on center block. Clear.
Was that 12 rounds?
Yep. Put 12 on it. Five, 7, 40 grains.
Huh. I'll be damned.
Yeah,
Very interesting.
that's surprising.
Very interesting.
That's really surprising. Let's go take a look at this. All right, so this is some pretty surprising results. I thought for sure we were going to see a little bit more destruction and carnage with those super high velocity 5.7s, but as you can see, we've definitely got some pretty deep pitting on the center block. A couple that penetrated through. They did not go all the way through, but they made it through the first portion. 9mm decimated. This was that, what was it, 124 grain? 9mm. We do have full penetration, and you can see a little bit of transfer, some lead on the other side. Completely shattered this block. We've got minimal destruction in the 5.7. Really surprising outcome. Really surprising outcome. Something to consider.
Brent, I'm thinking about this as a suppressor host, as spicy as it is. I mean, it was a lot of fun today, but I'm not going to call it like the greatest suppressor host out there. Thoughts?
So there's a lot of things that it does wonderfully suppress, and there's a lot of things that it doesn't necessarily do well suppressed. Obviously, you're up against that subsonic and supersonic speed range. 9mm are very easy to just bump up to 147 grain and get it below that, 1150 or 1100 feet per second to make it towards subsonic, which is going to, suppress really well. 5.7, you're going to have a hell of a time doing that. Most, 27, 37, 40 grain stuff is going to all really kind of zip pretty quick. You're getting about, 16, 18, 2000 feet per second. I know that there are some subsonic loads that they have done where they're putting like a 55 grain projectile and they're able to drop down the powder charge and get it subsonic and still have it hit pretty hard. But where this shines is the non-tilting barrel on this. You don't need the recoil booster on here for it to be able to run and operate properly, which is great. And most 22 cans are actually rated, you'll check with your manufacturer on this, but most 22 cans are actually rated for 5.7. And because the barrel's not tilting, you don't need the recoil booster on there. So like this example here from Rugged Oculus, obviously has the recoil booster on there, but it is not necessary to have that on this pistol for it to function properly or to cycle. So like I said, it does a lot of great things suppress and a lot of things that make it harder because of the cartridge to suppress it.
If you guys want to see us fire this with the Rugged Oculus 22 can, just throw a comment down there. We can totally do that. We should throw it on there.
Absolutely.
Hey, Pat, roll some of that footage of us firing from the vehicle. What did you think about, the 5.7 versus the 9mm, hopping out of a vehicle?
Honestly, they're pretty comparable as far as size and weight and otherwise. So the only thing that I could speak to that would even be a little different would be just recoil impulse. Maneuvering around the vehicle otherwise was the same, other than maybe less reloading.
I think it was also lighter. It felt like doing the 9mm and then going to the 5.7, it felt like a brick versus a feather. I'm sure the weight is extremely nominal.
Yeah, this is coming in at 25 ounces. That's right on my notes here. So this is weighing 25 ounces without the light, without the suppressor. You can get this in the non-threaded barrel version as well, and the non-optics ready slide conversion or slide version. And there's going to be some negligible amount of weight difference there as well. Absolutely. The round is absolutely we fired it suppressed and unsuppressed, and the concussion, I believe, and maybe we can measure this with the sound meter. Sure. But I believe it's definitely louder, even unsuppressed. I believe the 5.7 definitely has a louder concussion to it.
It is
a little more bang.
It's spicier. There's no. Now, granted, not subs out of this today. 147 subs out of the 9mm today, but at supersonic, she's spicy. Ear Pro.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously longer and further away from your ear with the can. I was shooting it, without wearing Ear Pro, and I don't have any ring ear otherwise. You guys can all comment below if you think that was unsafe or otherwise, but I didn't have any problems. Especially shooting outdoor with the snow, it really kind of helps absorb a lot of that sound. Kind of going into this, another thing that they did on the 5.7 Rock that PSA has done is some sort of voodoo magic here, because these magazines are gargantuan, right? With the 5.7 round, it's a longer cartridge.
Thin.
Longer cartridge. Let me grab a magazine here. And to kind of compare these in thickness and size, you can see this is obviously a Glock 17 mag. This is going to be the Rock. This is a 17 round magazine in 9mm. This is going to be 23 rounds. Say that again. 23 rounds compared to 17 rounds. Amazing. Not only that, because it's shooting a 40 grain projectile instead of 115 grain, 124 grain, 147, whatever it may be. Think about that weight difference. So when these are fully loaded, you can feel the difference in weight. It's a lighter it's just lighter, fully loaded with more rounds. And then adding to that, what they've done is on this grip, they've made it super thin. And like Adam was saying, it definitely feels a lot more like a 1911 almost. I can't insert magazines, so we're going to blur that out.
Yeah.
It feels, I don't know what kind of voodoo magic they've done here, but the way it conforms to your hand, it feels thin.
Absolutely.
When you compare it to more of a blocky Glock, this feels like a larger grip than it does on the 5.7. So I'm not sure how they've done that, but they've done a wonderful job with it, and it's absolutely super comfortable. I'm a Glock fanboy, obviously. I shoot, this is my 34 that I shoot in competition. So I've run a lot of 9mm. Obviously 9mm was issued both of us when we were in the service, and otherwise, other government agencies. And the 5.7, would you have preferred to have had the 5.7 on your hip in the sandbox compared to a 9mm?
I can't answer that yet. I just don't have but a few boxes of rounds downrange. But if it performs as well as the 9mm with the ballistics and the felt recoil, you bet I would. I absolutely love it. Pat, roll some of that footage right now of the penetration test, because I think that we should talk a little bit about that for a moment. What were your thoughts on, right here as you look at the 5.7 round penetrating versus the 9mm round? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I try to keep the test as fair as possible. We were shooting federal ammo for both the 9mm and the 5.7. I'm still having a hard time getting a hold of some blue box. What is that, the SS-197? I would have liked to have tried that as well.
Sure.
I know those zing a little faster, possibly. But I wanted to try to keep it kind of an even playing field. I was a little surprised that I believe the 9mm was going through a couple more bores than the 5.7. They both hit with the pretty good amount of authority, and they actually penetrated a little further than I thought either one of them were going to. Yeah. Something I did note was we didn't have as much deflection in penetrating each one of those bores. The 9mm yawed off or curved off on that first shot, and the 5.7 hammered straight through. In the last round, or the last bore that round hit, you could actually see it keyholing, so that round was impacting sideways. So we were getting a tumble effect through there, which definitely speaks to the lethality of even a full metal jacket punching through, hard targets, which is pretty impressive in and of itself as well. And the ability for this to be able to punch through, soft armor like level 2, as opposed to stopping a 9 and this punching right through it like a hole puncher. I mean, there's something to be said there.
You guys, I really want to see what your comments are on the weapon. Do us a favor. Obviously 5.7's been around for a while, but it's really picking up steam. That is entirely evident by all the manufacturers that are building these now. I think that we're going to start seeing them get smaller, subcompact. I really am looking forward to the next year or two and what manufacturers decide to put out on this weapon. Anyway, from the KroBros here at Crow Ranch, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. Like, share, subscribe. Appreciate you.
I can't get it to stay up.
I make a pill for that.
You got me wearing a stupid outfit.